General Carrelli, thank you for referencing the legislation that you were an incredible ally in getting through the legislature, partnered with Representative Pam Delisio. You know, one of the things we know is that military families oftentimes have struggles when they transition, particularly from military life to civilian life, and that there are specific challenges that military spouses face, the vast majority of whom are women, and the vast majority of those women are in professions that require some sort of license to work. So I want to thank you for that assistance with that legislation, where we made sure that military spouses who are teachers have a shorter time frame and a lower cost to become certified to teach in Pennsylvania classrooms, and they're excellent teachers, and we're grateful to have them. And I also want to thank you for your help and support in changing the rule recently to allow military spouses to practice law here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And the Supreme Court's Board of Law Examiners really did a huge service, I think, to our military spouses to create an environment where they can practice law when their spouses are stationed here in the Commonwealth. So we want to make it easier for those individuals who are transitioning from military to civilian life. You spoke earlier with Senator Mensch about some of those challenges that veterans face when they come back. You know, I've heard from the business community in York County about you know, that they're really struggling to find employees who are licensed CDL drivers. PennDOT has expressed similar concerns, and you know, the recommendations that you made to Senator Mensch are greatly appreciated, and I hope that's something that we can work on, even if it involves us interacting with our congressional delegation to see those changes happen at the federal level. You know, are there things that we can do as a legislative body, not just for our veterans, but also for our military spouses, that we can continue to help the men and women in uniform and their families transition to the private sector from the military sector? And do you have any suggestions for us with regard to military spouses on how we can continue to take that work further?
Yes, ma'am. And I think, you know, the intent of the Military Family Education Program is really to get after our retention, but the byproduct of that is it's building better Pennsylvanians. You know, here's an opportunity, and I think, you know, in the way the draft wording is now from the sponsor currently, it's essentially anyone after after your initial term of enlistment. And it doesn't have to be an initial term enlistment with Pennsylvania. So I do believe when this goes into effect, if this gets approved and it's in effect, there are going to be a number of people that come to Pennsylvania off of active duty. There are going to be a number of people that are in adjacent states' National Guards that are going to come to the Pennsylvania National Guard, or that may be currently serving in the reserves that want to come to the Pennsylvania National Guard, because they will be eligible for this, and this is for their families. So we have to look at our families differently. I mean, right now I can give you thousands of stories of families that are by themselves right now because a member is deployed overseas. I can give you stories of 2 feet of snow hitting the ground, and we pull that member out of that house for 4 days to go 200 miles away to a highway to save people that are stuck on a highway somewhere, okay? But that member's house, the spouse is there, the kids are there, their electricity's out. They got 2 feet of snow in their driveway. Who's helping them? Who's shoveling them out? I mean, so there's a tremendous amount of sacrifices on our families, and we need to do more for our families. We need to recognize them. We should have programs, and I think this education thing is one. You know, we do so much. We could have said, well, this is just a bonus program, and I'll give you a check, you know, for how much money. But I don't think it has the impact, and it doesn't have the reward. This is an investment in our families in Pennsylvania. So I think by being able to provide a spouse or family members with an education, you know, we're investing in their future. So it's not just money in the bank, This is something that will keep these families in the Pennsylvania workforce. It's going to develop them. You know, how many of those become nurses or lawyers or doctors or whatever because we provided them an opportunity to get an education? So I think we need to look at more opportunities targeted at families because they are so important. You know, we have a saying in the military: you recruit members, but you retain families. So I can go into high school with the uniforms and flash all our fancy equipment and show up with a helicopter and people are excited. But after 6 years, that's not going to keep them in the service. If their family enjoys the military experience, if their family thinks it's important, if their family thinks it's well worth their sacrifice to be in this life, that soldier or airman will stay. But if the family's against it, we're going to lose that soldier every time.
Right, and I'm completely supportive of Senator Regan's initiative, and I think that in the long term, it's good for our military families. It's also good for Pennsylvania's economy. I just want to make sure, you know, in light of the fact that we have 236,000 jobs that are open here in the Commonwealth, and we have a great skilled workforce in our military spouses, I just want to make sure that we remove any barriers from the workforce, because we do know that particularly in that transition from civilian or into civilian life, that they can be particularly financially vulnerable. And so would look forward to any opportunities we have going forward to work together to assure that military spouses, we remove their barriers to the workforce.
Great.
Thank
you,
you
ma'am.
so much.
I appreciate your support.